Welcome back to another episode here on Drive with Jesh. Today we're here in Austin, Texas at Driven by Design with owner and entrepreneur Imran Ahmad. So these guys do amazing transformation on cars that are already super cool, and today we're going to get a little behind the scenes look at how they work their magic on these cars. We'll get a shop walkthrough, and then we're going to hop in Imran's 911 to learn more about his entrepreneurial journey and his background. Imran, thanks for having us here today. Glad we could finally lock this one in. Before we jump in and look through the shop, what can you tell us about some of these amazing cars that you've got here, right here?
Well, right here to our left, this is a 911 GTS Targa with a full tech art package on it. So we've done full tech art body kit. It's got custom wheels. We lowered it. We did performance. We did interior, full integrated hidden radar detector and laser protection system. And then obviously PPF after we did it all to protect the paint.
And then what about this one here?
So this is an older 993. We're doing a conversion on the interior going from tan to full black leather. We updated the headlights and fog lights and tail lights as well to give it a little bit more modern lighting, a little bit more modern appearance, but still keep that classic flavor. It's already got the tech art wheels on it, and then we painted the calipers black for an all blacked out look as opposed to, I think stock they were yellow. So just wanted to go for a real clean, all black look. So come on into our design studio, and this is John. He's my lead designer and fabricator here.
Hey, John.
Hey, how you doing?
So what we're talking about out in the shop with that Targa, this is the file of those laser shifters that we created for that vehicle. What you're looking at on the screen here is that's a 3D scan that we took of the front bumper, and then those are the pieces that John creates to integrate those laser shifters.
This is our 3D scanner that we use. First, I kind of see how big I want to make the pod and what will work. I got to make sure that the laser shifter is perfectly straight and leveled. Well, this is what we did on the outer side. We did one here, and then in the middle pod, we went ahead and did two more in the middle here, and then I just mirrored the outside on the driver's side.
And obviously with integrating these, right, it's not just a matter of hiding them, it's a matter of the performance, right? It's a line of sight item. So out here, just clean lobby. We didn't want to have posters and stuff all over the wall like your traditional car shop, right? Mm-hmm. We are a design house at the end of the day. I have an aesthetic that we want to carry, not just with the vehicles that we create, but also with our own space, right? So our friends at Vossen, I called them up, told them I was starting the shop, and 2 days later, we had a full display wall of wheels. I've been doing wheels and tires for 30 plus years. So we got a lot of friends in that industry. So big supporters of ours, depending on the car. Having a background in design and then having those resources in the industry, we're building a special project. You don't want a cookie cutter wheel that everybody else has got. So we'll do one-off designs. And a couple of the cars outside, you'll see we've done some one-off wheels that later have become part of the lineup. But initially it was designed as a one-off for one of our clients. So it makes their project that much more unique. So this is our clean room. This is where we do a lot of our PPF and window tint. PPF and window tint we do in this separate space just so we can contain the environment, keep it dust free. And then the rest of the shop space is out here. Let's go check that out. This is our fabrication area, kind of the opposite of the clean room. It's kind of our dirty space, right? We still try to keep it clean. We've got a full dust collection system to keep our dirty space still relatively clean.
It still looks really clean for a dirty room. Well, I see some of these cut up here. And so this is from the 3D design, and this would kind of be like a next step here where you cut out.
Correct. So sometimes we'll take the 3D design, or if it's a 2D design, we'll laser cut it on our laser, which I'll show you here in a second. And then we can come in and hand router pieces if we need to. So that's why the router stations, we built them, we use them quite often. Nice. So some things are great to do on a computer, but you still got to be able to get your hands in there and actually really make it happen. On certain things you're just not going to be able to do. Yeah. And sometimes it's just a matter of fine tuning it. So this space allows us to do all of those fabrication things that are beyond what our 3D printer and our laser can do for us. Nice. So this is our big laser. With this, we're able to etch, cut, do a lot of different things. Like right now, we're cutting your logo there. You can kind of see it.
So if you had your hand under that thing, that would go right through your hand, you think?
I wouldn't recommend it. That's why we've got the warning sign, right?
I like the warning sign.
We don't, not only that, it's also, what you're cutting. Yeah. We've got to, extract all the fumes and pump them out of the building. You don't want to be breathing that stuff in either. Yeah. So there's also a big factor of safety when it comes to having some of this machinery and some of these tools. My guys are my biggest asset. Yep. Last thing I want is them getting, harmed or hurt. So we do take safety very seriously. And then over here, we've got our state-of-the-art alignment machine, right? for any kind of suspension work, whether it's lifting, lowering. We do all that here in-house. And then we've got the ability to align everything. We bought the right head so we can do it with not damaging the wheels. Doesn't matter if the car is airbagged or slammed or, you know, crazy wide body on it. We can align pretty much any car. Nice. Come on over, I'll show you how our wheels and tires are done. Full touchless mounter and a full diagnostic balancer. So that way, you know, painted wheels such as these, any of these wheels that we're doing with carbon fiber trim, or, you know, you don't got to worry about scratching the wheel, damaging the wheel, because everything is done in a completely touchless manner where you're not going to have that problem. But same thing that Bugatti's got at their factory in Molsheim, France.
Damn.
BMW got 4 of these at their, you know, their plant in Spartanburg. But again, like I said, being in the wheel and tire industry for 30 years, we wanted the best, and that's what we've got here in-house.
Nice.
So that's our wheel and tire department. Nice. Let me show you the paint department. So this is our paint mixing room. We use BASF paint exclusively, all the way from the primer through to the clear, right? We want a full mixing system where we know we're not going to have a chemical issue with, you know, this didn't mix with that or this doesn't go with that. So we use BASF's RM Diamond paint all the way throughout. We've got a paint mixing system, paint matching system. We've got a camera that, you know, for cars that are sun faded, or, you know, even cars that are just 2-3 years older here in Texas, the color code may not be the same. So we're able to scan it, color code it, and then tweak the code according to what the camera sees. And then if you take a look out here in the actual paint booth, we've got a Camaro that's just getting ready to get sprayed. Speaking of custom paint, let me show you a couple things that we did on this Lambo over here. This is a Huracan that we built for our very first customer and one of our best customers, Chris.
Chris, hey, I'm Jesh.
Chris,
Good to meet you.
Chris is our very first customer. He and I met before we even had anything in the shop. Been one of our best customers since. And with his Huracan, obviously we did quite a bit.
So the vision originally for this car was just to wheels and suspension, right? Just the basic stuff. But our friends at Bohrsteiner, like, hey, get the whole kit. We'll give you a good price for it. But the challenge that I had was, who's going to install it, right? I mean, we're talking about paint on carbon fiber, and then I still had to have it wrapped. And so a good friend of mine, Jason, who was my wheel guy, recommended Imran, who just relocated from Orlando. And so I've known Jason for 15 plus years. I trust him. So there's automatically a sense of trust because he's referring Imran. So we started with suspension first. Suspension first, which is pretty basic, right? And it just went so comfortable and easy that I'm like, let's do it. And then fast forward, voila.
So it's been suspension and exhaust. We painted the brake calipers. We painted the emblems. We did the Bohrsteiner kit, obviously.
Custom F1 rain light.
We did a F1 rain light. You know, John, you saw we 3D scanned and 3D printed a piece and added an FIA rain light to the back of the car.
I love that story, all built on trust. And your car looks amazing. I'm sure it sounds amazing. I know you guys did some work on the exhaust. Can we hear a cold start, maybe some revs?
I mean, it's loud, but always could be louder. You know?
Always, right?
Come on over, let me show you our Porsche that we're going to be taking out later today. This is our shop vehicle. It's a 2007 997. We decided, you know, we go in a paint shop, let's show off the paintwork. So this is a factory Ruby Star red. It's not the new Ruby Star Neo that they just kind of brought back. This is the original Ruby Star, but we did add a raspberry pearl to it. We played around with a couple different pearl colors to make sure that we didn't get something that was too far different from OEM. But we wanted to have that little extra pop when the sun hits it. Besides the paint, you know, we also did factory Porsche Aero nose, Tech Art side skirts. We lowered it on H&R springs. Our friends at AG built the custom wheels for us.
Nice.
We redid all the leather on the inside with, you know, the matching stitching. We also did a full integrated Escort radar detector system and a FabSpeed exhaust system on it as well. And a little Moshammer duckbill on the rear to give it a little classic sporty look.
I like that.
So, you know, kind of timeless design, cool color, but makes for a fun car to drive.
Now that we know more about your shop, we've seen some of these cars you guys have transformed. Let's hop in your car and learn more about your entrepreneurial background.
Sounds good, let's do it.
tell us about where you grew up and how that kind of shaped your view of success.
Well, I grew up in Chicago. I left there when I was in high school, but my dad, he was a teacher. He was an engineer before that, but he always had a side business. So he'd come home from school and go out and he got an air conditioning, heating business. So I always saw that entrepreneurship and that's that hustle. And my dad probably stems from there, just knowing that, hey, you got to get out there and work for it. No one's going to hand it to you. Yeah. Then, whenever I'd get in trouble, he'd make me come with him and go do AC work, and it sucked. Back then I used to feel like a punishment, and now I'm so thankful that my dad instilled that in me and taught me how to work hard, because those are the lessons you carry on with life. And then moved to Florida when I was 17 after graduating high school. Lived there with my mom. She was struggling a little bit, so I had to step up and make things happen and work hard and make sure there was money coming in. Always loved cars, growing up, and growing up around that kind of Michigan area with the big three, going to the Chicago Auto Show all the time. I figured, I want to be a car designer one day. And then when I realized that I've got a better chance of winning a Super Bowl, right? So that kind of, And then moved to Florida. But there was this local car shop that they did like custom wheels and Momo accessories and stuff like that. And I would go in there every so often. And one day I went up there and they had a help wanted sign. I filled out an application and apparently I nailed the interview. And I got started there. I was a 20-year-old, 21-year-old kid.
Right.
But they took me under their wings and they were super, super knowledgeable. And with that, I was able to just soak up everything, right? I whatever they could teach me, I tried to learn. And then just worked my way up through that company. And then eventually ended up leaving and going to work for another company. And that's where I was for the last 21 years. One of my good clients, he owned a car audio shop down the street. And we would do the wheels and all the accessories, and they would do the big stereo systems. When I stopped in, I said, hey man, just wanted to let you know I'm not going to be there anymore. And pretty much locked me in the office and was like, no, you got to come work for me. And it was called Ultimate Audio. And at the time they were like the best at car audio. I knew nothing about car audio. And I was like, look, man, I don't know anything about car audio. I know red's positive, black's negative. That's all I got. But he had a bigger vision, I think. He was like, look, you teach me your stuff, I'll teach you my stuff. Yeah. And it'll be good. And he was a friend as well as a client. I told him, I said, look, I'll give you 90 days, and when this fails miserably, we're gonna, part ways as friends. And that ended up being 21 years. So I guess he was right.
Yeah.
And over the 21 years, we moved into multiple locations. At one point, we were in an old 1960s Pontiac dealership with the big glass storefront, the whole deal. And then we ended up, in a 60,000 square foot facility, state of the art, the nicest facility, probably in the country when it comes to customizing cars. Eventually, that came to an end, and I decided if I'm going to do something for myself, I didn't want to compete against the juggernaut that I had built, and I didn't want to have to look over my shoulder either. So that's what brought me to Texas.
That's right, in Texas. Okay, that's kind of a good segue to calling these pivot points in life. That those moments where it kind of up-leveled you or changed the trajectory of your life. What would you say were your pivot points? Sometimes it's action you take, and sometimes it's a little bit of luck. You meet someone, or you're at the right place at the right time. What would you say were yours?
I would say, a couple things that worked out in our favor as I was there in Florida. Because we were in Florida, we got a lot of celebrities live there, and so on and so forth. So back in the day, before Gisele Bündchen was a supermodel, she was a local Orlando girl. Right? She came in, left me a deposit for some wheels for a BMW. She had an E36. This is how long ago we're talking about, right?
That's awesome.
And literally, she was on the cover of Sports Illustrated next week, and
just blew up.
She took off and blew up. We never saw her again, right? But then we also started getting some NBA players in there, and that really changed the trajectory of not just me, but also the shop, right? And it was, hey, if we're going to cater to this client base, I need to be sharper, I need to be smarter, I need to be on top of it. Yeah. So there was a lot of self-education that, was like going back and trying to reinvent myself and, just really learn. I would say one of the kind of recent mile markers for me that kind of made me say, okay, we've done a lot, what are we doing next, was I had the privilege and the honor of being asked to help restore the Cannonball Run Countach. It was being inducted into the Library of Congress, and it was going to be on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. And so, got to meet my childhood hero, right?
Yeah.
The black Countach that everybody dreamt about with the two hot girls in it, right?
Yeah.
When I kind of got to that Cannonball car, it was like, okay, pause and take a look around, right? Now, where do we go from here? And that's when I decided, you know what? Maybe I need to do this for myself instead of doing it for somebody else. Yeah. And that was kind of one of the pivotal moments where there was a paradigm shift, and
Yep.
I started thinking, in a different term, not just how to grow the business I was, working for, but how do I grow myself? How do I get to the next level?
Yeah.
And this was kind of the natural succession was, hey, you got to do your own thing. And it's funny when I finally kind of worked up the courage to do it, a lot of people were like, well, it's about time. We were waiting.
So people believed in you. They knew you could do that. What advice would you have for someone that is looking to take that leap, or questioning betting on themselves, maybe taking that entrepreneurial journey?
Being an entrepreneur is not easy, right? Start a custom car shop, they said. It'll be fun. But any kind of entrepreneurial work, right? It's not easy, and not everybody's made for that, right? Mm-hmm. You have to be honest with yourself. Am I going to push myself, or do I need someone to push me, right? Because if you're not going to push yourself, maybe that's not the right thing for you. But I always worked at every job I've ever had. I've always worked like it was my own. Mm-hmm. And I knew that I wanted to do better. I wanted to be better. I wanted to constantly evolve and learn. And that's really what it takes, right? You've got to be willing to put in the work. That's part of the struggle, but at the same time, there's a different stress that comes with that. But there's also a really different reward that comes from that. I think you probably understand that, having left the corporate world and kind of ventured out on your own. Yeah. I'm sure that it's a scary thought, but at the end of the day, if you know yourself and you know your own worth, would you rather take a gamble on somebody else or gamble on yourself, right? I mean, at least like you gamble on yourself, you know what that person's willing to do.
Any upcoming events that Driven by Design is throwing out there? Anything?
Well, I think you were out of town for the last one. We did that Cars and Camera event, and that actually worked out amazing. Obviously, we're in Texas. We're hitting all the car shows and hitting the car scenes.
Cool. Well, check out the Instagram. Is it just Driven by Design?
It's Driven by Design _ATX, and the website's drivenbydesignatx.com.
Awesome. Appreciate it, everyone.
Of course, man. Thank you.